Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Croydon Constitutionalist podcast, bringing classical liberalism to South London and beyond via YouTube, Stitcher and Apple Podcasts. My name is Dan Heaton and my partner in podcasting today is Mike Swaddling, the co-founder of the Croydon Constitutionalists. Mike, what do we have to discuss today?
Well, hello Dan and hello all. First of all, we're going to talk about the Conservative Party Leadership Contest, what's happening and what are some of our predictions. A town of two local MPs, Chuka and Sam, two MPs bordering us that have been in the news recently. Our recent Leavers Drinks in Croydon in the Milan Bar. An upcoming event with the Taxpayers Alliance. And finally, the council's parking permits solution they're looking to implement. And we'll talk more about that later.
Cheers, Mike. So it's all on. They're off, as they say. The Tory Party Leadership Contest is now underway. Theresa May has formally resigned. And boy, what a load of runners we have. Beforehand, we believed there were going to be a dozen candidates, I think, but a couple dropped out prior to the actual off, as it were.
A sensible number of 10.
A sensible number of 10, indeed. So Kit Malthouse and Sam Gyimah dropped out before the off, as it were, and we'll talk a bit more about Mr. Young Sam later on in the podcast. But we've now had the results of the first round of the ballots, and three people fell at the first hurdle, as it were. Andrea Leadsom, Mark Harper, and Esther McVeigh. And subsequently, Matt Hancock has decided to drop out of the race. But clearly, the winner of the first round, very, very clearly, is Boris Johnson with 114 votes, which I believe means that were he to maintain that number of votes in the subsequent ballots, would guarantee him a place in the final two. And his name would therefore go forward to the Conservative Party membership. So it looks like it's probably a battle for second place. We've got Jeremy Hunt on 43, Michael Gove on 37, Dominic Raab on 27, Sajid Javed on 23, and Rory Stewart, the previously unknown, really, Rory Stewart, on 19. So obviously there's about 30 votes from those that fell at the first hurdle and another 20 votes from Matt Hancock that are up for grabs, really. Mike, what do you make of the first round?
Well, an interesting thing wasn't just how much Boris won by, but if you add on Esther McVeigh's and Andrea Leadsom's votes to his, that's roughly where I assume they're going to go. Dominic Raab, I think he's done well, but I don't think he's going to make the final two. I would assume you add those votes onto Boris. Boris has a really commanding lead among Conservative MPs, and all I've done there is add the clear levers onto Boris. I'm not including snakes like Gove, but maybe some of those votes might go to Boris as well. So the great concern that he wouldn't get through the parliamentary party, it's really hard to see how he doesn't achieve that now. Surprising, Andrea Leadsom snuck out at the bottom. Thought she would have had more support. Really surprised about Rory Stewart. I mean, it's as if there are 19 Conservative MPs who've been in a coma for the last few years. If they think he's the answer to their party's problems, they are sadly deluded. You can only wonder if they're trying to deliberately destroy the Conservative Party.
Well, I mean, we don't know because it's a closed ballot, a secret ballot. One assumes he voted for himself, so you look at another 18. I wonder if was it 10 Conservative MPs who voted for the Labour Party motion the other day, which would have given Parliament, well, in fact the opposition effectively, the opportunity to take over the running of Parliament for a couple of days next month, and they would have been able to try to put something through which would have avoided, in their way of thinking, but denied the future Prime Minister the opportunity perhaps for a no-deal Brexit. Perhaps we can assume that those 10 voted for him. We know he didn't vote for it, although he seemed to think it was a good idea and then decided, I better not vote for it because I need some Conservative MPs to vote for me. But yeah, so if we say that's 11, who are these other 8 who think that this chap that no one's heard of and who has subsequently to the first round has gone on to say something like, if Boris Johnson wins and decides to prorogue Parliament, or indeed if Dominic Raab, equally could prorogue Parliament for the purposes of getting a no-deal Brexit through, because there's no acceptable deal that coming forth from the European Union, that he would not only attempt to bring down that Prime Minister, but that he would set up a separate rebel chamber across the road and hold a parliament there.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? I mean, I was thinking we all go down to Skylark and set up our own parliament and vote us out at midnight. Whilst we're at it, we can bring back hanging and flogging, get rid of the BBC, and I don't know, free beer at supper. I mean, you can't just set up your own parliament. It's utterly bizarre that you can say what the Prime Minister is considering doing, which is a proroguing Parliament, is something that's been used, I believe, by Clement Attlee, and it was used in Canada recently, who operate under a very similar sort of set of parliamentary rules. It's been used by them in recent times. He says that's completely undemocratic, but setting up a rebel chamber in a different building, and ultimately, to put not too fine a point in it, which has to be backed by force, I mean physical force, if it's going to implement anything, isn't an unconstitutional matter. The guy is beyond the pale, determined to destroy the Conservative Party and determined to spout nonsense. It's Brexit derangement syndrome playing out once again.
It does seem to be the case with this chap. I just don't know where he's. I really don't know where he's come from, as it were. He goes around telling people that he's the best read of all the candidates. He's done the most travelling or what have you. But all we know about this travelling really is that he smoked a load of opium or something. Well, I think if people ever wonder about the long-term effects of it, it seems to be he's in some sort of delusional, fantasy land at present. But nonetheless, he scraped through. He got more than 17 votes, which was the minimum you could get. And of course, he did get more than 3 other of the candidates. So it looks like Boris will probably make it through. Mike, given the other figures, who do you think's gonna get through with him?
Well, I fear continuity remain, or continuity may. Jeremy Hunt is the other candidate that's going through. He's got an establishment feel to him that a lot in the Conservative Party will like. The people that like Jeremy Hunt will get behind him. Rory Stewart will get behind him. I think, rather than any of the other candidates at some point. I'm assuming here some of the bottom candidates will drop out. Rory Stewart's the darling of the media, and I'm sure Jeremy Hunt will become the darling of the media because they won't pick Boris and they won't pick Gove. So it just feels to me here be the inside man that comes through, which is really quite worrying. I think he's quite an impressive candidate. He's got quite an impressive story, being an entrepreneur. He managed to be Secretary of State for Health for a long time as a Conservative. That's not an easy task to achieve. But what worries me is the stories that say he wasn't very interested in politics until he suddenly was. He never appeared to have an opinion until he was a Conservative. He was at one point pitching himself as the second referendum candidate. And now, an interview I listened to him with the other day, he'd accidentally slip up every so often and refer to crashing out on no deal, or the cliff edge of no deal, whilst trying to generally talk about no deal being an option. Now, when you know that's what he really thinks. He really thinks leaving without a withdrawal agreement is going to be a disaster. And, let's say fair play to him. He truly believes that. He's not serious about leaving the EU. He is clearly not serious about leaving the EU. So I fear the fact that he'll get through, because just for all the reasons I think he's probably quite a good candidate. But never underestimate the ability of the Conservative Party to screw up. And if we ended up with him, we've ended up with Theresa May with a different name.
Yeah, I mean, there's an upcoming debate for what it's worth on Sunday, but I believe Boris, that's on Channel 4. I believe Boris is refusing to take part in that.
Not entering Pravda.
Yeah, but then there'll be a further debate on Tuesday evening on the BBC, which I believe Boris has said he will attend. So by that point, you will have had at least one further candidate will have dropped out. So that will take us down to, hold on, I'll get my abacus out. That should be 5, I believe, at the most candidates. And you may find that somebody else drops out. Probably not Rory Stewart. I mean, he might get kicked out, but I think he's there until he gets told he has to leave. Otherwise, he's going to take his toys home and set up his own parliament, by the sound of it. But yeah, so we'll know, I think, by next Thursday. That'll be Thursday the 20th, I think it is, of June. Who the two are, and then it will go to the membership of the Conservative Party. Now, I saw a headline on the internet earlier today suggesting that, I mean, the headlines in the media are, everyone's going to gang up on Boris, or Boris is definitely going to, they're all over the place. But there's one suggestion, which was that if Boris gets so many votes, he's just going to get coronated. And whilst Boris may well be the overall favoured candidates of the Brexiteers, if you like, at this present moment in time, I do think it's best that the Conservative Party membership do get to vote on it, even if the sort of it's Boris versus Raab, which would be delightful, I suppose, from our point of view in that respect. I do think it would be a good idea for them, nonetheless, to put it to the party membership, because the next leader does need that level of validation. As non-Conservative Party members, yes. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the Conservative Party, for their own sake, needs not to betray people again. They betrayed us on the 29th of March, and I think it was the 12th of April was the next date that was another betrayal. The 31st of October will be the ultimate betrayal, and there was a headline I saw that Boris might delay for a few weeks if it meant getting a free trade deal, and I just think he'd be an utter fool to do that. Go 3 weeks without a deal. Any further delay will be a nightmare. And for Conservative Party activists who have just fought in local elections and lost badly, who didn't fight in European elections, and who have just really been crushed in Peterborough, for them not to have a say on who their next leader is, even if it is somewhat of a false say, because Boris has kind of already come charging through, and as you say, Sajid, Raab, someone stays in just for the sake of making it a two-man contest at the end. I think it's critical for the party that they do that.
Absolutely. Well, time will tell, and we won't have to wait too much longer to know who those final two are. So I think from my perspective, it looks like Boris is going to get through, and if he's up against somebody like Hunt, I think for the sake of, not just for the sake of the country, but for the sake of the Conservative Party, he really needs to win. And I suspect if he does get through to the final two, I think he will win, because it's not just a question of who can deliver Brexit, which obviously us as Croydon constitutionalists are very interested in that. I think it's also, if you were a Conservative Party member, it's also who do you think is best placed to defeat Corbyn. And I think somebody with the energy and enthusiasm of Boris is probably best placed to do that, as well as delivering Brexit. But time will tell. Well, enough of the Conservative Party. Actually, yes, enough of the Conservative Party, because although we're going to talk about a Conservative Party member of Parliament, and indeed until very recently, someone who was purporting to stand for the leadership of the Conservative Party, I don't see him in any way as a Conservative. There's been some interesting antics from a couple of our neighbouring MPs in recent weeks. Sam Gyimah was going to stand for the leadership of the Conservative Party, but withdrew before the first ballot when he realised that he really did not have enough votes, or who knows whether he even had enough nominations to get on the ballot paper in the first place. He was arguing for a second referendum. He really was the second referendum candidate. And I think, as someone who most people in the street would not know who he was, and including that probably most of his constituents in East Surrey, it was a bit of a literally left field proposal. But also, of course, most notably in the news recently has been our neighbour to the north, Mr. Chuka Umunna, who in recent times has been a member of the Labour Party. Then, and let me try to get this straight, the Independent Group, Change UK, the Independent Group, and now, what are they calling themselves? The Independent Group for Change? Although he technically wasn't a member of that, because I think he'd resigned from that prior to them changing the name, but who can keep up? And has finally joined the Liberal Democrats. Mike, what can one say about Mr. Umunna?
Just anecdotal, a couple of people I know who are broadly interested in politics, not low level detail perhaps the likes that we are, but broadly interested. Quite big fans of Chuka. There's something about him. They like the way he comes across. They think he speaks sense. He talks well. He's comes across as a reasonable chap. Both of whom have said to me, no respect for him now. He looks a total joke. There's a Michael Foot quote about you can rap but you can't re-rap, and that's what he's done. He's left to form his new party, and that's a principled stand. That failed, so he's gone to another party, then went to another party, then maybe moved around a bit, then went to another party. Sorry, that's not principled. That's any place you can find to keep your job. He's made an utter fool of himself. Bear in mind, this was the man that was going to be the next leader of the Labour Party, almost unopposed. He was the Boris of Labour. He was going to totally change, or bring back new Labour politics and drive them to victory. He's not going to do that with the Lib Dems if he ever gets to be leader there. I don't see that he's a credible person, and I can't help but feel he will do a chicken run away from Streatham, because I don't think Streatham's voting Lib Dem.
Well, that's it. I mean, yeah, it's interesting because his reasoning for, I think this is when he announced he was joining the Lib Dems, or whether it was after he left Change UK. It's so complicated. But the interesting thing he said was he'd underestimated the need for a party infrastructure when running elections. I mean,
when you run in Streatham and they weigh your vote, they don't count it, I guess you don't need to know. You don't need to understand the need of a party infrastructure. It's beyond naive. I mean, it is an embarrassment. Again, it speaks to a lack of capability in the man, but maybe he's just never come across it. But it is quite amazing, as you say, that he didn't understand the need to have a set party infrastructure. And the Lib Dems, fair play to them, not a party, I think I've said this before on this podcast, not my favourite party, but fair play to them. They fought a clever game with their infrastructure, and they used it in the European elections, they used it in the local elections, and they've used it to get Chuka. That may be the mistake.
Indeed, and I mean, yeah, some people are saying that he could win in Streatham on the basis that it's a, if he runs as this sort of, bollocks to Brexit type candidate, which is effectively what the Lib Dems are running as the slogan at the moment, because the constituency voted quite heavily for Remain. But you've just got to think this through. The Momentum people, are massive in that area. And they are going to definitely see that constituency, if he stands there, as a constituency they must hold. Now, just looking at the 2017 election results for Streatham, he had a massive majority. He got 68.5% of the vote. Well, I'll correct myself. The Labour Party got 68.5% of the vote. He won. They won by nearly 17,000. 27,000 votes. Sorry, I mean, to turn that around, and that was from the Conservatives, might I add. The Liberal Democrats only got 3,600 votes, and the Labour Party got 38,000 votes. So that would be a heck of a turnaround. Are there Conservative Party voters in that area that might vote for him as a Lib Dem? Perhaps, yeah. But it's a pretty tall order, and as I say, the Labour Party will be all over that constituency because they do not want to lose to him, and I think their activists will be very active because the Momentum people really don't like him.
Ironically, some of the biggest winners if Chuka runs in Streatham might be the Conservative and Brexit Party candidates in Croydon Central, as a huge number of local Labour activists feel compelled to beat Chuka rather than win Croydon for Sarah. So that might work out quite well for them. I think as well that Remain vote in Streatham and that Labour vote in Streatham, it's a partisan Labour vote, and it's an often an ethnic minority Labour vote. It's about communities. It's about a long history of trouble in the area. It's not a London metropolitan elite vote. Those people exist in Streatham, and those people might go and vote for him in the Lib Dems, but I think a lot of that block vote is not the woke characters you expect to go and vote for the Lib Dems because Labour aren't Remainy enough. They are people that will vote Labour no matter what, and I certainly hope that proves to be true for Chuka.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think probably 2/3 of the vote that he's got in that area is the vote you've just described. It might be that some of the remainder of that vote would go to the Lib Dems, but actually, how many of those people are, Corbynista almost, metropolitan elites, if you want to call them that. So time will tell. Just
one quick thing on going back to Sam. Of course, when it all started to go wrong for him. When the Leavers of Croydon made their way down to Caterham. It was around that time Sam got his first challenge from the local East Surrey Conservatives. Now, he won that. He didn't have a motion of no confidence, I think it's a particular motion. But you've got to look at those Conservatives now. They fought. They kept him after a motion of no confidence. No doubt they lost a number of local councillors as a result of the sort of shenanigans that he and Theresa May were up to. He then has now voted for the Labour Party to take control of Parliament.
He did.
He's voting for a second referendum in a heavy Leave area, or a lot strong Leave area. He's not rewarded them in any way, and he's made a fool of himself by pretending he could be ever leader of the Conservative Party. Someone who's completely not Conservative. So, no, I just like to think we played our small part in Sam's downfall.
Oh, no question about that. And we could tell that when we were in Caterham. I mean, just subsequent to that, if we just look at the European election results from Tandridge, which is essentially the same area as the East Surrey constituency, the Brexit Party won. In fact, if you put together the remaining Conservative Party vote and the Liberal Democrat vote, the Brexit Party still won.
Wow.
So, does he not look at the figures? I really don't understand the chart.
There's a theme here, though, of three people we've spoken about already in this podcast: Rory Stewart, Chuka, and Sam. Three people who ooze entitlement, ooze expectation, ooze their belief in themselves and their paternity over us. None of them seem to believe that our right to say, now they've made it, matters. And it's... Fortunately, we are living in a time where it feels like those people are about to get their comeuppance. But all three of them have an incredibly common thread, which is that they know best and we should do as we're told.
Indeed. And how many times do we have to tell these people and people of their ilk that we want our independence back? Thank you very much. And there were many people who do want the independence of our nation back, who were out with us just the other night when we had our latest Leavers of Croydon Drinks last Wednesday in the Milan Bar. How did you find it, Mike?
Another good evening. Good to catch up with some old friends. Emphasis on old. And I include myself in that. Yeah, good crowd out. Some nice new people as well. Some people we haven't met before. Some interesting characters who've been involved in yellow shirt demonstrations, who were just telling us about that. And we had Mick from Orpington, who's someone I've often spoken with on Twitter, if that's the right, or tweeted with on Twitter. And he left some details with us for his blog, The Europrobe. Might find that interesting. He talks about the European Frankenstein Union. You can get more details and a link to it from our website. It's new friends, some old faces. Good to catch up. We need to keep these going. We will keep these going. Come on down to one of our drinks. It's a very casual affair, and it's good to see what we all think on what's going on. And it was cross-party, really cross-party. Brexit Party, UKIP people, No Party people, Conservatives, all there in attendance.
Yeah, another enjoyable Leavers of Croydon Drinks, and I'm sure we'll be organising some more later in the summer. Speaking of things that we've got coming up, another thing that we've organised. We've got the Taxpayers Alliance returning to Croydon on next Saturday the 22nd of June, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. On the corner of George Street and North End. Mike, what are we looking to do?
Well, such is the state of taxation in Croydon that the Taxpayers Alliance have had to make another visit to us this year. The Taxpayers Alliance are out in Croydon having a street stall, but it's taking their Town Hall Rich List roadshow to Croydon. And it's an opportunity for us to speak to locals and talk about some of the exorbitant costs that are felt in Croydon Council. Croydon employs 19 people who earn over £100,000 a year. The chief executive is paid over £185,000 a year. We've got some of the highest paid councillors in London, offered themselves a 4.4% pay rise for front benchers last year. And all along, your council tax keeps going up. In fact, it keeps going up by the maximum amount they can put it up without referring back to the people. Without referring back to the people might be a thing whiz coming along at the moment. So it's really important that we challenge the council in Croydon. Labour are in for at least another 3 years. They've got a big majority there. But they need to be held to account. That shouldn't just be 3 years of taking your money and spending it on lots of expensive government officers whilst also not providing the services we need. Look at the roads, look at the inadequate children's services, look at the lack of progress with Westfield. The council isn't providing a service for us. And the Taxpayers Alliance are a fantastic organisation that really promote efficiency and low costs in our government services. Indeed they do, and they were out with us last year. And I think it's fair to say they reached out to us as a leading group in the Croydon area to get involved this time to help them organise a stall in a week's time. So yeah, we'd like you to come along, really. So please do. It's a street stall. We'll be handing out leaflets. We'll be talking to them about some of the things that are going on in Croydon. Don't feel you won't know what you're talking about. You're Croydon residents. You understand what council tax is like. You understand what it's like when you phone the council, how little service you get, the problems we've had with our bins. Get involved. Great opportunity to campaign for an issue, hopefully close to all our hearts. Absolutely, really looking forward to it. And final subject for today, I've mentioned it before, but the council parking permits for the driveway few, not the many. Mike, can you let us know what's happening with that? Yeah, so Croydon Council has an ongoing war on cars. The council doesn't like cars. They don't like the fact that you want to drive places. And you think about a borough like Croydon, great swathes of got fantastic public transport. If you're on the tram line, if you're near East Croydon Station or West Croydon Station, you've got fantastic public transport. You're in the south of the borough, you may well be a mile from a bus stop, or certainly a mile or two from a train station. It's a lot of hills that are not easy to navigate, and we have a lot of elderly residents who walking up and down them is not the easiest thing to do. For that matter, some of those younger residents find it not the easiest thing to do. Cars are a necessity for everyday life. They're particularly a necessity if you've got a family. It's how people are able to mix work and pleasure and family life all in one. Croydon Council have a problem with that, and they've been rolling out more and more residential parking schemes, and now it's a stinger. They want to charge you, depending on the type of car you have, up to £300 a year for a residence parking fee. That compares to the current £80. Now, if you're rich and can afford a brand new car, it might be as low as £6.50. If you've got a driveway, you don't need residence parking. And this is a Labour council stinging the poor to pay for the rich, or letting the rich off, should I say. So they are looking for, a driveway, for the driveway few, not the terrace many. They are looking to increase costs for those that can't afford to park off street and who need a car in a residence parking zone, and lowering costs for people that have got the money for a new car or a driveway. What can we do about it? Well, there's a consultation. It's running only until Thursday the 20th of June, but please get online, have a look at our website. You'll be able to see what's there. That's croydonconstitutionalist.uk. Have a look. There's a link on there to the consultation. Make your voice heard, and it does have an effect sometimes. The council will row back if they think it's going to hurt them at the ballot box. So get involved and have your say.
Cheers, Mike. Yeah, it is a particularly egregious effort from our local Labour council to fleece as many people as they can for as much money as they can to spend presumably on their pet projects. Now, if you've got any more stories of that nature about Croydon Council or indeed any other South London council, do get in touch with us. There's many ways to do that. You can contact us on the Twitter at Croydon Const. We've got a Facebook site, so you can contact us via that. As Mike said, we've got a website, the croydonconstitutionalist.uk, and you can email us on croydonconstitutionalist@gmail.com. So, Mike, what else have we got coming up? We've got the big thing we've got coming up is the Taxpayers Alliance stall next Saturday,
22nd of June, 11 till 2 on the north end of Croydon. So we're meeting at the corner of George Street at North End.
Excellent. We'll do another podcast in due course, and we'll certainly have some more pubcasts coming up. So before we leave, just to say, do please get in touch with us via the Twitter or the Facebook or the email. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And almost goodbye from me. Just one last quick thing. On our website again, 3 interviews. Chris Mendez, who's the leader of the Foundation Party, Hong Wei, who's the Croydon chairman of Croydon UKIP, and Sean Finch from the Libertarian Party. Long form interviews on our website. Fascinating read. Have a read when you have the chance. And it's goodbye from me.
Thanks for reminding us of that, Mike. So until next time, it is goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.